My name is Mel County, and I did my project on Albert Ellis. So, this is a quote I really like by Ellis. It says, "The best years of your life are the ones in which you decide your problems are your own. You do not blame them on your mother, the ecology, or the president. You realize that you control your own destiny." And that's from A New Guide to Rational Living. So, his early life, Albert Ellis was born in 1913 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He moved to New York when he was 4 years old, and that's where he would live the rest of his life. He was the eldest of three children. His father was an absentee businessman who hardly showed affection towards his children. His mother was described in an autobiography as a self-absorbed woman with a bipolar disorder. Ellis even said that when he came home from school, his mother wouldn't be there, and when he got up for school, she would still be asleep. Ellis took on the responsibility of parenting his younger siblings at a young age by helping them get ready for school, and all three of them took on jobs when the Great Depression hit to help their family. Health issues in youth. Albert Ellis suffered numerous health issues in his youth. He was rumored to have been hospitalized 8 times from the ages of 5 to 7, one of those times even lasting almost a full year. Conditions included kidney disease and tonsillitis, which resulted to a severe strep infection that led to an emergency surgery. Unfortunately, during this time, both of his parents hardly offered any support towards him and barely visited or comforted him. Getting over his fear of rejection, Ellis claims that he had developed extreme anxiety and had a fear of speaking to women. So in order to get rid of this fear, he forced himself to speak to 100 women over the course of 1 month at the Bronx Botanical Gardens. Unfortunately, Ellis did not wind up with a date, but he did conquer his fear. So he earned his Bachelor of Arts in Business from City College of New York downtown in 1934. He had a brief career in business and writing fiction before he realized that the Great Depression had really had no money in either of these fields. He developed a new dream of clinical psychology after researching and writing about human sexuality. He was very passionate about that subject. He obtained his Master of Arts in 1943 from Teachers College, Columbia University, and established a part-time practice in New York while working on his PhD, which he gained in 1947 in clinical psychology from Columbia University. So his early career, he was very interested in psychoanalysis and saw it as the deepest and most effective form of therapy. He was trained in and began using it with his patients, but he became very disheartened with the lack of progress that he saw in them. He held many leading staff positions at this time, as well as teaching at NYU, Rutgers University, and Pittsburgh State University. He had many influences, which included Karen Horney, Alfred Adler, Erich Fromm, Harry Stack Sullivan, the book Science and Sanity by Alfred Korzybski, Ancient and Modern Philosophy, and his own experiences in life. So his big theory was rational emotive behavioral therapy. So Ellis began working on this form of therapy during the late 1940s. Rational emotive behavioral therapy consists of the therapist helping the client understand and act on the understanding that their personal philosophy contained beliefs that contributed to their own pain. This therapy emphasizes clients' self-defeating beliefs by displaying their irrationality and replacing them with new thoughts. He thought that through analyzing these beliefs, he would be able to cognitively reconstruct them, and that people would realize that they were originally thinking rationally, and they would be able to become more rational and more clear-minded. He developed the first cognitive behavior therapy, which would spark many other ones. He published and presented his paper, How to Live with a Neurotic, in 1959 at the APA convention in Chicago, Illinois. By 1953, he also would consider himself a rational therapist rather than a therapist that would use psychoanalysis. In 1954, he would start teaching these beliefs, and then he first started showing the beliefs in public in 1955. Now, rational emotive behavioral therapy was actually known as rational therapy, but he changed it around the 1990s. This is the ABC framework of rational emotive behavioral therapy. There's an activating event, such as, let's say Sarah has a breakup with her boyfriend. There's a belief about that event. Sarah might believe that she was the reason for the breakup. The emotional consequence could be that she thinks that she's unlovable and she doesn't want to perceive any other relationships. So what Ellis would do is dispute these irrational beliefs. He would ask Sarah why she feels this way, and he would try to change her mindset of thinking she's not unlovable. And then he would replace these beliefs with E, the effective new beliefs, which would be that this was a learning experience, she is lovable, and she can now use this in new relationships. So, the response to rational emotive behavioral therapy. During this time, behaviorism ruled the psychology field, and clinical psychology was strictly psychoanalytic, with psychologists such as Sigmund Freud, Carl Jung, Adler, and Pearls. There were many psychologists that felt very hostile towards Ellis at conferences as well in papers. Psychologists didn't really like his new technique. They didn't really see it as something that they wanted to do. There was a lot of people that saw the style as rough and confrontational. So Albert Ellis Institute was the Institute of Rational Living. He created this institute in 1959. It became chartered by the New York State of Regents as a training institute as well as a psychological clinic. He would hold seminars in which he would treat a client on stage using his rational emotive behavioral techniques, and he would launch a journal in the 1960s. Today, this institute has trained over 13,000 psychotherapists. He was unfortunately temporarily removed from the board over management issues in 2005. However, he ended up being reinstated in 2006 after winning a court case against the members who removed him. And in 2007, Albert Ellis's lawyers filed a lawsuit against the institute for breaching their contract with Ellis and demanded he gets his property back. His work as a sexologist. So around the 1960s, Ellis was seen as one of the founders of the American sexual revolution, along with Alfred Kinsey. He became well known for his sexologist research and controversial opinions regarding human sexuality. He wrote and published numerous articles and books regarding human sexuality and love, one of which was published in 1958, which was called Sex Without Guilt, and it set his liberal tone regarding sex. So homosexuality, its causes and cures. It was published in 1965 by Albert Ellis. He viewed homosexuality as an illness and discussed possible cures. Around 1973, the APA declared homosexuality not a mental disorder. Ellis published his reformed views in his book, Sex and the Liberated Man. He explained that homosexual behaviors might be treated, but homosexuality as a whole should not be seen as good or bad other than through religious views. In 2001, he upgraded the book Sex Without Guilt and published Sex Without Guilt in the 21st Century. This book placed a humanistic view on sexual morality as well as ethics and dedicated a whole chapter towards homosexuality, where he gave advice for homosexuals to further strengthen their sexual lives. His later career was a part of other cognitive behavioral therapies being developed, included by one of his own students, Maxie Clarence Maltby Jr., and became very popular in several countries. He created a school called the Living School, which incorporated parts of rational and emotive behavioral therapy in its curriculum. The school didn't last long, but a lot of groups really liked it. He held positions in many groups, such as the American Association of Marital and Family Therapy, the American Association of Sex Educators, Counselors and Therapists, the Division of Consultative Psychology of the APA, the Academy of Psychotherapists, and the Society for the Scientific Study of Sexuality. He was also an associate editor and consulting editor of many psychology journals. And around the mid-1990s, he changed rational emotive behavior therapy to just rational therapy. His work as a speaker, so Ellis therapy was incorporated into various other fields such as business, education, philosophy, and politics. He became a very confrontational public speaker and commenter on various issues. He often questioned other therapeutic techniques such as religion. And for 50 years, he held his famous Friday night workshops that consisted of voluntary therapy sessions on stage. In the 1970s, he began to incorporate rational, humorous songs that consisted of funny lyrics with his rational message regarding his therapy to a popular song during that time period. And other than these workshops, he also held several other seminars and workshops regarding psychotherapy around the world until he was around 90 years old. His final years, throughout his life, Ellis would work over 16 hours a day, teaching, writing, and conducting therapy sessions until he became ill at around the age of 92. In 2004, he developed critical health issues with his intestines that resulted in the removal of his large intestine. He continued to work despite all these serious health issues and his hearing loss, along with the help of his wife, also known as the love of his life, Debbie Joff Ellis. He was hospitalized for over a year with pneumonia and eventually returned home to his apartment above the Albert Ellis Institute, where he died in his wife's arms at the age of 93. His impact on psychology, he was ranked ahead of Freud as a psychological figure who overly influenced the field in 1982 survey of American and Canadian clinical psychologists. He was also named the most cited author following 1957 that year. In 1985, he was presented with an award by the APA. He co-authored over 80 books and 1,200 articles and even published a textbook. And these are my references.